I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and this is our best look yet at the design, both inside and out, of the next generation Volkswagen Amarok. The 2023 Amarok might share Ford's T6.2 platform that underpins the new Ranger Ute that you and I took a close look at a couple of weeks ago, but the exterior and interior design of the Amarok is radically differentiated from the Ford Ranger. And I think any Amarok fan out there will be breathing a sigh of relief having a look at these sketches released by Volkswagen commercial vehicles today. Now, these might be sketches, but the design of the second generation Amarok is very much locked in. It was locked in probably 2 years ago. This vehicle was designed jointly in Europe and right here in Melbourne, where Volkswagen designers and engineers have been embedded, working with the Ford Ranger development team here in Australia for the last 3 years. And, you know, having seen a bunch of partnerships in the Ute space over the last few years, not just vehicles like the Mercedes-Benz X-Class, which was based on the Navara and didn't really work out in terms of sales, but also the previous Ranger and the Mazda BT50, it's usually pretty clear what car the junior partner is related to. And in this case, the Amarok is the junior partner. The Ford Ranger is the head product in this partnership, but you know, Volkswagen is a pretty mighty company, and it's clear that they insisted that the second generation Amarok not look like a Ranger with a slight difference to the headlight graphics. And I think that's exactly what we see here, because certainly, you know, from everything I can remember, these sketches of the next Amarok show a Ute that is, you know, really differentiated from the product that sits underneath it. Probably the most differentiated in my memory, at least. Let me know down below in the comments if you can think of another example. But anyway, let's talk about exactly what we've got here. We've only got 2 sketches, so I'm not going to make this video run out to 20 minutes or something talking about 2 pictures, but they actually are images that are loaded with detail, and a first glance doesn't actually show you everything that we're looking at. So what we've got here is 2 sketches of the vehicle set in South Africa, where Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles has an extensive collaboration with wilderness protection, so that's why we're looking at it sort of on the high veld or something there in South Africa. We've got a green Amarok facing the artist, sort of diving into a mud bog. In the background of that picture, we can see an Amarok in side profile. And then we have a second sketch of the interior, and that's probably the one that's going to draw people in the most, because we can see a lot of detail, not really obscured too badly. That interior, it's really there on show, and we can see a lot. But I'll come back to the specifics of the interior in just a moment. What this program entailed is what the Ford Ranger program manager Ian Foston called a fully differentiated sibling product. And so that means that this isn't just an X-Class Navara type deal. Instead, the Amarok and the Ranger are designed to look really, really different, even in the details. And I think we can see that at this sketch of the front end, where sort of the general proportions of the vehicle are similar to the Ranger in terms of the hard points where the wheels are located and kind of the extreme height of the bonnet and the bluff front end. But that front end itself is totally different. Look at the bonnet, completely different molding on the bonnet to the Ranger. We've got a really broad, wide, chrome accented Volkswagen grille that is more reminiscent of the Touareg large SUV or the Atlas SUV that's available in America, but not here in Australia. And then we have LED headlights with rectangular LED daytime running light signature to them. That looks pretty cool. We can't see a huge amount here because of the mud being thrown up in the sketch. You can see all-terrain tires, potentially, you know, a future off-roading special edition like the Amarok W580X. But those blistered guards, both front and rear, sure, this is a late-stage sketch. It could still be toned down 10-20%, but it's all looking pretty positive, very, very muscular, even more muscular than the already quite handsome first-generation outgoing Amarok. Same mirrors as the Ranger, that's not unusual. Now you notice on the doors, this sketch doesn't have any door handles. What it does have is that sort of fillet at the bottom of the door does look like the Ranger door to me. So we'll have to wait and see whether the doors are actually different on the Amarok. They could be, subtly, but I can't see those differences as yet. However, in the little peek we get of the side profile of the Amarok, you can see that the tray is really quite different to that on the Ranger. So it's really deeply sculpted in terms of the arches, but compared to the Ranger, you can see that there's a lot more detailing on the Amarok. It's sort of a curve in the wheel arch blister, but the tail lights are sort of a nod to the first generation Amarok. They're quite tall, looks like they have a bit more 3D detailing than the first gen car, but front and rear should be Volkswagen's own thing. That's sort of what we can take from this sketch. But moving inside the second gen Amarok, I think this is really promising because the first thing my eye gets drawn to in here is the steering wheel. This is a Volkswagen steering wheel. It's lifted out of a Touareg large SUV. It's sort of the steering wheel proliferating across the range at Volkswagen. Just behind that steering wheel, you can see an indicator stalk, and that stalk looks like a Volkswagen stalk to me. It's too early to say for sure, but if the steering wheel and the steering column are from the Volkswagen parts bin, it seems likely that it would also have a Volkswagen indicator and wiper stalk. And these are only small things, but it is something you touch thousands of times when you own a vehicle, and it is one way that you can differentiate between a Volkswagen and a Ford. Now, we can see beyond that steering wheel a digital instrument cluster. That's something Ranger has. And we can also see the tall vertical 12-inch touchscreen, also from Ranger. But beneath that, it sort of looks like we might have some piano keys that the Ford doesn't have. So that's cool. I do anticipate the same software running on these systems between the Ford and the Volkswagen. That's usually something that's quite difficult to change. But the skin, the fonts, the colors, the graphics might be a little bit different. Moving down from that touchscreen, we can see the E-shifter from the Ford Ranger pretty much just carries over. The full drive system dial pretty much carries over. But then look at these seats. The seats look like the 14-way electrically adjustable seats currently used in the first gen Amarok, in the high tier versions like the Aventura, the W580S, the ones covered in Napa leather with Vienna leather, I should say, with electric adjustment. Now this car has grey trim with orange or sort of bronze tan highlights. That looks really cool. Be great to see something like that carrying over to the next Amarok, given the current car is all black inside. It does look like a richer, softer, more premium interior. That's certainly the case for the Ranger, which has soft touch materials on the doors and the dash where it didn't have that before, and you can bet Amarok will receive all of that too. But the stitching, the shape of the door cards, and the dashboard is all different to the Ranger. So quite promising that this is actually fully differentiated, as Ford says, rather than just paying lip service. Now, Volkswagen Australia did tell us in 2020 that the next gen Amarok wouldn't repeat, and I quote, the mistake Mercedes made with Nissan. So that's a pretty high bar to set. I think Ford is probably the right brand to partner with if you're going to do this. You know, the Ranger and the Amarok continue to sort of rank close to the top of comparison tests even now, with both products being pretty dated, at least in terms of years. So this should be good, but we'll wait and see. When will we see it? That's a good question. The full reveal of the next Amarok will take place in mid-2022. So the Ranger will probably launch about the same time that we see the Amarok, in pictures at least. Hopefully with travel restrictions easing, fingers crossed, we might even be able to get across and see an Amarok in person before the Australian launch, which is set for the first quarter of 2023. So January, February, March 2023 is when these things will be plying the roads here in Australia. It might launch in South America or South Africa before Australia. We'll have to wait and see, but that's when you'll be able to get into one here. So 11 minutes. That's quite a long time for two sketches, but hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into the next generation Volkswagen Amarok, what we know about it so far. And let me know if you'd like a further video on the dynamics. Just as a teaser, under the bonnet, that's going to be the Ford Lion 3-litre V6 diesel, 190 kilowatts, 600 newton meters thereabouts. Maybe a 2-litre bi-turbo as an entry level. Not sure about that. 90% of people here in Australia are buying the V6 at this point in time. So that's a look at the second gen Amarok. Leave me a comment down below, hit subscribe and the notification bell, and as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.